do you prefer playing at night during, especially in
Yes,
August?
yes,
Okay.
it's still hot at kickoff, but
Right.
at least by maybe 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
it's cooled down a little bit.
Sure.
But yes, I prefer the night games this time of year, 100%.
Coach, Logan and Anna, just from my week of observance, those have been two kind of freshmen that have found themselves with some playing time. How do you think they've gone, in their first trial run of real games? Is it easier, perhaps, better to evaluate those players now that they've played some games instead of just practicing?
Yeah, for sure. They've both had good and bad moments. But I'd probably say that about most freshmen, right? They both work super hard. They both bring a lot of energy. And I think they're figuring out college soccer. It's faster, it's more intense. The athletes are bigger and stronger. So they're both making adjustments. But they both had moments within the game where I thought, okay, that's a kid we recruited. She's going to be good. And then they've both had moments where you're going, okay, this might take a little bit of time, and we got to be patient with them.
And I know you told us last year, everyone develops at their own pace.
Right.
Does everyone kind of shake off those nerves at their own pace too?
Yeah, I think so. I think everybody, as a freshman, I think everybody's nervous in that first game. But some kids, it just comes quicker for them, and others doesn't. So, yeah, I think you're dealing with different personalities, different natures, different experiences in youth soccer. I think all those things would tie into how quickly they adjust.
And are Logan and Anna, did either of those two players get to be with the team kind of prior to this year? I know some people were kind of with the team last year.
Yeah, Logan came in January, and so she trained with a group. She couldn't play the games, but she was able to train all spring. Samaya did the same, but she was injured, so she couldn't train with us at all. But they were both here all spring. Anna joined us. I mean, she didn't arrive until late July, so she's kind of really new.
And because I guess Samaya too has been another freshman that's been playing a lot. For Samaya and Logan, even when they can't really play, or in Samaya's case, not even practice,
Right.
What do you hope they do in that kind of period?
Well, there's a couple of things. They get used to their teammates, so some of that awkwardness that freshmen go through in the summer and in preseason, it's gone because you're now part of the team. Get settled into school, make that adjustment about being away from home and be prepared for school and what that's like, be away from your parents. So they get kind of a head start in all that adjustment. Soccer-wise, they get to work out with Mal. Again, Logan, not so much Samaya this spring, but that's the theory, is those kids can come in, they can work out, they can get a little stronger and get ready for college soccer. So there's a lot of benefits to doing it, but for us, we leave it up to each kid. If a kid approached me and asks about it, I give them an opinion. But we talk about different kids and different pathways and how they develop. I think some kids are mature enough to come early, and I think others probably need that extra semester of high school to get ready for college.
And I know Logan and Anna, I believe they were both ranked as 4-star prospects. Do you find the star, obviously, recruit rankings matter, generally
Right.
people get it right, but do you find that maybe players that have more hype coming in are able to adapt quicker, or is that kind of random?
Random. I don't know who assigns the stars. It's not us coaches. So, it might be somebody that owns a magazine, or they get feedback from club coaches. So it's a nice honor for those kids, and it's nice for us when our recruiting class gets ranked high. But I'm not sure how many stars Hannah Webb would have had, and she's our team captain. So just one example, but no correlation on that. I think Hannah Webb got here, and I think within 7 days we were like, that kid's going to start. She's phenomenal. And other kids who maybe had a much higher rating out of high school might find it difficult. I think it's more to do with each kid, and maybe the club environment they came from. Some of those club teams play very, very high level soccer, and some don't. And I think maybe that can factor in as well.
And another question that probably won't make the article, but just so I can learn
Sure.
a little bit. I know I saw during the Pitt game, their captain, it was pretty obvious, had a lime green captain's band.
Yeah.
Does Hannah wear one of those, or have I not seen it? Or?
We have them. I shouldn't say have them. I know in the past we have, but I haven't even noticed this year. So if that's Hannah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
Good
wasn't sure
question.
if it was a uniform requirement or anything.
No,
like
we've
that.
had them. We've used them in the past. I just can't say that I noticed or didn't notice this year. So maybe a question for Justin. He does our equipment.
Is that something you don't really care about?
I personally don't,
Okay.
because we know who our captains
Right,
are.
right.
But sometimes the kids do.
Sure.
It's kind of a cool, and you see it in the pro leagues,
Yeah.
when the captain goes off, they change the armband
Right.
to the guy coming in or the new captain. So, but in college, there's usually 2 or 3 captains, so it's a little bit different. So.
Is there something that you learned about your team this past weekend that you didn't know going into it?
Yeah, there was a few things that we learned we have to be better at. I thought, taking the Pitt game, because it's the most recent one on my mind, I think, we were pretty good in a lot of areas, but we were not good in their 18. We missed some really good chances to score, and we were not very good defending our 18. And those are two things that are going to win and lose you games. So I thought between the 18s, we played pretty well. Our shape was good, our effort was good, we did some nice things. But when it came down to those crucial moments in our 18, we ball watched, we didn't track runners, we didn't do some of the basics. And certainly at the other end, we had 3, 4, 5 good chances to take the lead late in that game, and we missed all of them. So when you're playing against maybe lesser opposition, you get away with that. But playing an ACC school, or we're about to play a Big 12 school, you do not get away with those things. So that's the big emphasis for us the next 2 days, is defending our 18 better and making sure we capitalize on our opportunities.
Injury and protocol-wise, do you have any expectations going into the weekend?
No, you know about as much as I do. We've got 3 or 4 kids that are listed as doubtful would be, or maybe 50-50. Day to day, I don't know what the terminology is. But no, I mean, there's some of those kids, we're going to have to talk to the trainer today. We wanted to give them yesterday off to see what happens. Olivia may be available pending the COVID protocols, her test results and whatnot. So that would be a big boost if we can get Olivia training this week and hopefully available for Thursday, but we don't know that yet. And then, Kim obviously didn't play, and she's day-to-day, to be quite honest with you. Yokes is day-to-day as well. So, I'd hate to go further than that.
Right.
We honestly probably will not know the lineup until Thursday morning, once we get a chance to see give them as much time as possible to recover.
The Bedlam series has been a hot topic around conference realignment and stuff like that. Do you hope it continues past the time that they leave? What are your thoughts on that?
I haven't thought about it, to be honest. I mean, when it first came up, it was kind of like, whoa, what's going on here? But for us, our focus is just on playing this season. And I think that's all we can do, because there's so many uncertainties. As far as continuing, I like the Bedlam rivalry. I like it in all sports. I enjoy going to the basketball games when we play them. But, it really depends on what our next move is. If we're in a conference where we have enough sort of Power 5 games, we might not need to play against OU or Texas or whoever else isn't in our league. If we're in a league where we might need that boost in non-conference, then sure, maybe you play some of those teams. So honestly, have not put a whole lot of thought into it. We're just focused on winning games this year.
How important, if at all, is the Bedlam rivalry itself to recruiting? There's a lot of kids you get from in-state. Does it matter much to them who wins and loses these games?
I think it matters to them, but as you guys probably know more than me, a lot of kids in this state grew up either OU or OSU, and it wouldn't really matter who wins or loses. That's their family, right? And I get that. So I think for those kids, they're not going to be swayed either way, depending on wins and losses. But I do think it matters to our kids. We take a lot of pride in the game. It matters to our fan base. It matters to me. We take a lot of pride that we have such a great record in this rivalry. And if you just looked at the record, you'd think we'd had it easy. But the majority of those games are 1-0 overtime. Just tight games. So we never take them for granted, for sure.
Is it hard, when you have a few players that are day-to-day, seeing that Bedlam game? I'm sure they're, champing at the bit to play. Is it hard to kind of ignore the opponent and focus on the health, or, I guess specifically like next Thursday?
Yeah, it's hard. And as a coach, I think we have to recognize that we're at the beginning of our season. And, if one of those players isn't quite ready to play and I put her in too early, she might tweak something again. And now she's out for 4 more games. Yeah. And that's silly of me. I'll look back on that and I'd be angry, even though the kid's probably in my ear saying, it's Bedlam, I want to play. I get that. I'd be the same way. They're competitive people. They want to compete. But I have to look at the big picture and go, okay, this is game 3. We need these players to be 100% on game 15. Right. And if I push them too early, there's a chance I won't have them. So we're keenly aware that it's an important game, but we also are keenly aware that we have like 15 more to go, and we have to be very careful with that.
How's the goalkeeping situation? Is Evie still going to?
Well, I mean, Evie did well. I thought, when you look at Pittsburgh's goals, I don't think you could look at any one of those goals and say she was at fault, truly. And she made one spectacular save and another one that ended up being offside, but she made the save anyway. So I think she's earned the right to come into this week as number 1. But you know what? She has to train every day. If she has a poor week of training and one of the others steps up, we'd look at it. But I'd say that about these 2 walking in, or a left back or a right back or a forward. They got to train hard every day. And if they don't, we'll look at making changes. But I think Evie's earned the right to come into this week as number 1.
You mentioned Olivia might be back. What is the kind of bringing her back into the fold do? Is there a physical test she has to pass on? What goes into that?
No, she has to test. She has to test negative on her COVID test. And if she does that today, then she should be cleared to train. But again, as I was just saying, beyond being COVID cleared, which she should be, we think she's fine, there's also the physical demand of putting her in too early. So in other words, if we get her back for Thursday and she's had 2 practice sessions, and then we play her for 90 minutes, well, she might pull a hamstring, she might hurt her quad, she might hurt her groin. So we have to be really careful about what we do with Liv. And, you know, I know she's a competitor. She'll want to play, trust me, and she'll want to play every minute. But, again, we have to look at the big picture.